Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. Tonight, we'll be looking downward into the vast and beautiful world beneath our feet, a place filled with life, with wonder, and endless mysteries. Below us are layers of soil teeming with organisms we rarely see: bacteria, fungi, earthworms, and countless tiny creatures. But there is so much more than meets the eye. Some of the organisms in a single handful of soil outnumber all the humans who have ever lived. A simple patch of earth may contain entire ecosystems more complex than a rainforest. And the quiet work of these hidden creatures sustains all life above ground. The soil beneath us is both ordinary and spectacular, something we walk upon every day yet never ceases to amaze. If you enjoy these quiet explorations, I invite you to like and subscribe or share a simple thought down in the comments. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is rest, settle in, and allow the calm of the earth beneath you to carry you softly. Let's begin. The hidden universe beneath our feet. A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more living organisms than there are people on Earth. When you scoop up a handful of garden soil and hold it in your palm, you're cradling an entire universe. That small amount of Earth, just a teaspoon, contains billions of bacteria. In fact, scientists estimate there may be anywhere from 1 billion to several billion bacterial cells in that tiny measure. Add to that the fungi, the protozoa, the nematodes, and countless other microscopic life forms, and the numbers become almost incomprehensible. More organisms live in that teaspoon than all the humans who have ever walked this planet throughout history. It's a humbling thought. Beneath every footstep, beneath every garden path, beneath the grass in parks and the roots of ancient forests, there exists a teeming metropolis of life, working ceaselessly in the darkness. These organisms are not simply existing, they are working. They break down organic matter, recycle nutrients, create soil structure, and support every plant that grows. Without them, life as we know it would cease. The forest would not grow, the crops would not thrive, the flowers would not bloom. Everything depends on this hidden world, this quiet kingdom beneath our feet. Soil is not just dirt, but a living, breathing ecosystem. For so long, humans thought of soil as simply dirt, an inert substance, a medium to hold plants upright. But soil is so much more. It breathes, it lives, it responds. Healthy soil is one of Earth's most complex ecosystems, rivaling the biodiversity of rainforests and coral reefs. Within each layer, life flourishes in specialized niches. Some organisms thrive in the dark, oxygen-poor depths. Others prefer the lighter, airier zones near the surface. Together they form intricate food webs where bacteria feed protozoa. Protozoa are consumed by nematodes, and larger creatures like earthworms and beetles recycle the remains of all. Soil even has a rhythm, a pulse. During warm, moist conditions, activity surges. Microbes multiply rapidly. Earthworms tunnel vigorously. Fungi extend their networks. When conditions turn cold or dry, the soil seems to sleep, its inhabitants entering dormancy, waiting patiently for favorable conditions to return. This cycle of activity and rest has continued for millions of years, long before humans existed, and will continue long after we are gone. The smell of fresh earth after rain comes from soil bacteria. There's something deeply comforting about the scent of soil after a rainfall, that earthy, fresh aroma that fills the air and seems to promise renewal and growth. This smell, often called petrichor, comes in part from bacteria living in the soil, specifically a group of bacteria called actinomycetes produces a compound called geosmin. When rain strikes dry soil, it releases geosmin into the air, creating that distinctive scent. These bacteria play crucial roles in decomposing organic matter and making nutrients available to plants. Their presence is a sign of healthy, active soil. Interestingly, humans are extraordinarily sensitive to geosmin. We can detect it at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion. This sensitivity might be an evolutionary adaptation, as the scent of rain-moistened soil could have signaled to our ancestors that water was available, a vital resource for survival. Even today, that smell triggers something primal within us, a sense of connection to the earth, a feeling of home. The architects of soil earthworms have been called the intestines of the earth. Charles Darwin, the famous naturalist, spent decades studying earthworms. He was fascinated by these humble creatures and wrote an entire book about them late in his life. He called them one of the most important animals in the history of the world, and he was not exaggerating. Earthworms are ecosystem engineers. As they burrow through soil, they create channels that allow air and water to penetrate deep into the earth. Their burrows can extend several feet down, bringing oxygen to plant roots and soil organisms that would otherwise suffocate. These tunnels also help water infiltrate rather than running off the surface, reducing erosion and flooding. But their work goes further. Earthworms consume soil and organic matter, grinding it in their muscular gizzards. As this material passes through their digestive system, it is mixed with enzymes and beneficial microbes. What emerges as worm castings is far richer in nutrients than the original soil, containing several times more nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and calcium in forms that plants can readily absorb. A single earthworm may seem insignificant, but in healthy soil, there can be hundreds of thousands or even millions of worms per acre. Together, they can move tons of soil each year, gradually turning over and enriching the entire topsoil layer. They are truly the intestines of the earth, processing and transforming everything that enters the soil. Some earthworms can live for several years and travel vast distances underground. Most people think of earthworms as simple creatures with short lives, but some species can live for 5, 6, or even 10 years under the right conditions. During that time, a single earthworm may tunnel through thousands of feet of soil, constantly exploring, feeding, and transforming its underground environment. Different species of earthworms occupy different zones in the soil. Some live in the leaf litter at the surface, rapidly consuming fresh organic material. Others dwell in the topsoil, mixing organic and mineral matter. Still others are deep burrowers, creating permanent vertical shafts that can extend 6 feet or more into the earth. These deep burrows remain open for years, serving as highways for water and air long after the worm has moved on. Earthworms navigate their dark world through touch, taste, and moisture sensitivity. They can detect vibrations in the soil, allowing them to sense predators or heavy rain. When conditions on the surface become too dry or too cold, they retreat to deeper, more stable layers, coiling up in small chambers and entering a state of dormancy until conditions improve. Their patience is remarkable, a quiet endurance that has allowed them to survive and thrive for millions of years. Earthworms enrich soil with castings more nutritious than the original earth. The castings that earthworms leave behind are not simply waste, they are gifts to the soil, packages of nutrients in their most accessible forms. Laboratory analyses reveal that worm castings contain 5 times more nitrogen, 7 times more phosphorus, and 11 times more potassium than the surrounding soil. But the benefits extend beyond simple nutrients. Worm castings are coated with mucus as they pass through the worm's gut. which helps bind soil particles together, improving soil structure. This creates stable aggregates, crumb-like clusters that resist compaction and erosion. The spaces between these aggregates allow roots to penetrate easily and hold both air and water in balance. Castings also teem with beneficial microorganisms. As soil passes through an earthworm's gut, it picks up bacteria and fungi that aid in further decomposition and nutrient cycling. These microbes continue working long after the casting is deposited, slowly releasing nutrients over time. For farmers and gardeners, worm castings are often called black gold, a natural fertilizer that plants respond to with vigorous, healthy growth. In some forests, earthworms can move tons of soil to the surface each year. In temperate forests, where earthworm populations are robust, the amount of soil that these creatures bring to the surface is staggering. Studies have shown that in some ecosystems, earthworms can move 10 to 40 tons of soil per acre per year. This continual turnover means that the forest floor is never static. Leaves and organic debris that fall in autumn are gradually pulled down into the soil, where they are broken down and incorporated. Nutrients, locked in dead plant material, are released and made available to living roots. The soil itself is constantly being renewed, mixed, and revitalized. This process also affects soil depth. Over centuries, earthworms can gradually increase the depth of topsoil, building up the fertile layer where most plant roots grow. In areas where earthworms are abundant, soils tend to be deeper, richer, and more productive. Where earthworms are absent, organic matter accumulates on the surface, decomposing slowly, and nutrients remain locked away. The presence or absence of these humble creatures can shape entire landscapes. The fungal networks fungi weave, vast networks connecting trees and plants underground. Beneath the visible world of trees and flowers exists an invisible network of almost unimaginable complexity. Fungal threads called hyphae spread through soil like the finest silk, branching and rebranching, creating a web that can extend for miles. A single fungal network in a forest can connect dozens, even hundreds of trees, linking them in ways scientists are only beginning to understand. These networks, sometimes called the wood wide web, allow trees to communicate and share resources. When one tree is stressed by drought or disease, neighboring trees can send it nutrients through the fungal connections. Mother trees, the large, old trees in a forest, have been shown to support their offspring, sending carbon and nutrients to seedlings struggling in the shade. This cooperation challenges our old understanding of forests as places of pure competition. The fungi benefit too, of course. In exchange for connecting plants and delivering nutrients, the fungi receive sugars that the plants produce through photosynthesis. It is a partnership, a mutualism that has existed for hundreds of millions of years. Without these fungal networks, many forests would collapse. The trees would struggle to access nutrients, particularly in poor soils. The fungi make survival possible. Mycorrhizal fungi form partnerships with the roots of most plants. More than 90% of all plant species form relationships with mycorrhizal fungi. These partnerships are so ancient and so fundamental that they helped plants colonize land hundreds of millions of years ago. Early plants had no true roots, and it was likely their partnerships with fungi that allowed them to extract water and nutrients from rocky substrates. There are different types of mycorrhizal relationships. Some fungi penetrate into the root cells themselves, forming structures called arbuscules, where nutrients are exchanged. These arbuscular mycorrhizae are most common in grasses, crops, and many garden plants. Other fungi form sheaths around roots without penetrating the cells, creating what are called ectomycorrhiza. These are typical of many trees, including oaks, pines, and birches. In both cases, the fungus extends far beyond the root, reaching into soil spaces that roots cannot access. The hyphal threads are much finer than roots, able to penetrate tiny pores and extract nutrients from surfaces where roots would fail. This effectively extends the root system of a plant by hundreds or thousands of times. In return, the plant provides the fungus with sugars, up to 30% of all the carbon a plant captures through photosynthesis. It is a costly partnership, but absolutely essential. A single fungal network can span acres of forest floor. The largest known organism on Earth is not a whale or a giant sequoia. It is a fungus. In the Blue Mountains of Oregon, scientists discovered a honey fungus, Armillaria ostoyae, that covers more than 2,000 acres. It has been growing for thousands of years, perhaps as long as 8,000 years, spreading slowly through the soil, decomposing wood, and connecting the entire forest. Most fungal networks are not quite this large, but even a modest network can be astonishing. A single network might extend across several acres, connecting hundreds of trees of different species. As the fungus grows, it leaves behind a permanent record in the form of fruiting bodies, the mushrooms we see above ground. But these mushrooms are just the reproductive structures, like apples on a tree. The real organism, the bulk of it, remains hidden underground. This vast subterranean presence means that the forest floor is never quite what it seems. What looks like solid earth is actually a living fabric, woven by countless fungal threads. Walking through a forest, every step is on top of this hidden world. A world that is busy exchanging nutrients, decomposing wood, connecting lives. The forest breathes through this network, sustained by relationships too small to see, but too important to ignore. Fungi can break down substances that almost nothing else can decompose. Wood is one of the most abundant materials on Earth, yet it is also one of the most difficult to decompose. The cellulose and lignin that give wood its strength are chemically tough, resistant to breakdown. Most bacteria cannot digest them, but fungi can. White rot fungi, for example, are masters at decomposing lignin, the complex polymer that makes wood hard. They produce powerful enzymes that break the chemical bonds in lignin, gradually reducing solid wood to soft, crumbly humus. Without these fungi, dead trees would accumulate endlessly, locking away nutrients and carbon. The forest floor would be piled high with logs that never decay. Fungi are so effective at breaking down complex materials that scientists are exploring their use in bioremediation, the cleanup of polluted environments. Some fungi can break down petroleum products, plastics, and even toxic chemicals like pesticides. They can absorb heavy metals from contaminated soil, sequestering them in their tissues. This remarkable ability suggests that fungi may help us heal damaged landscapes, turning poisons back into harmless substances. Some fungi produce antibiotics that protect plants from disease. The soil is not a peaceful place. It is filled with competition, with organisms constantly vying for resources and space. Pathogenic bacteria and fungi attack plant roots, causing diseases that can kill entire crops. But plants are not defenseless. They have allies. Many beneficial fungi produce antibiotics, chemical compounds that kill or inhibit harmful bacteria and fungi. These antibiotics protect not only the fungus itself, but also the plant roots it partners with. When a plant forms a mycorrhizal relationship, it gains not just better nutrition, but also better immunity. The fungal partner acts as a guardian, warding off pathogens before they can cause harm. Humans have learned to harness this power. The antibiotic penicillin, discovered in 1928, comes from a fungus, Penicillium. This discovery revolutionized medicine, saving countless lives. But the fungi have been producing antibiotics for millions of years, long before we arrived. In the soil, these chemical battles play out every moment, invisible dramas of survival and cooperation that shape which plants thrive and which do not. Mushrooms are the fleeting, fruiting bodies of vast underground organisms. When mushrooms appear in a forest or garden, seemingly overnight, they can feel like magic. But these mushrooms are not the organism itself. They are just the reproductive structures, the way the fungus spreads its spores to start new colonies elsewhere. The real organism is underground, a network of hyphae that may have been growing for years, decades, or even centuries. When conditions are right, usually after rain and during mild temperatures, the network gathers its resources and pushes up a fruiting body. This mushroom opens, releases millions of spores into the air, and then often withers away within days. The spores drift on the wind, landing on soil near and far. Most will not survive, but a few will find suitable conditions, germinate, and begin growing a new network. Over time, this cycle of growth and spore production allows fungi to spread across vast distances, colonizing new territories, adapting to new environments. The mushrooms we see are just brief glimpses of a hidden kingdom that exists mostly out of sight, patient and persistent, woven through the earth itself. The bacterial world bacteria in soil fix nitrogen from the air, feeding all life above. The air we breathe is nearly 80% nitrogen, yet most living things cannot use it. Nitrogen gas in the atmosphere is locked in a form that plants and animals cannot access. It must be converted into other compounds, like ammonia or nitrate, before life can use it. This process is called nitrogen fixation, and it is performed almost entirely by bacteria. Certain bacteria, often living in nodules on the roots of legumes like clover, beans, and peas, have the remarkable ability to take nitrogen from the air and convert it into forms that plants can absorb. These bacteria form symbiotic relationships with their host plants, receiving sugars in return for nitrogen. When the plant dies, the nitrogen is released into the soil, enriching it for future plants. Without nitrogen-fixing bacteria, life on Earth would be drastically different. Nitrogen is a critical component of proteins, DNA, and many other essential molecules. The fertility of soils, the productivity of crops, the richness of forests, all depend on these microscopic workers, quietly pulling nitrogen from the air and delivering it to the living world. A single gram of soil can contain 1 billion bacterial cells. If you could zoom in on a gram of healthy garden soil, smaller than a sugar cube, you would see a landscape teeming with life. Billions of bacterial cells cluster around, particles of clay and organic matter. They coat the surfaces of sand grains. They float in the thin films of water that cling to soil particles. These bacteria are astonishingly diverse. There may be thousands of different species in that single gram, each occupying a slightly different niche. Some break down cellulose, others decompose proteins or fats. Some breathe oxygen, while others thrive in oxygen-free zones. Some produce acids that dissolve minerals, releasing nutrients. Others produce sticky substances that help bind soil particles together. This diversity is crucial. A healthy soil with a wide variety of bacteria is more resilient, better able to respond to changes in temperature, moisture, or the types of organic matter being added. It is more resistant to disease because beneficial bacteria outcompete harmful ones. In many ways, the health of soil can be measured by the diversity of its bacterial communities. Some bacteria create chemicals that help plants resist stress. Plants and bacteria have been interacting for hundreds of millions of years, and in that time, they have evolved intricate relationships. Some bacteria live on or near plant roots, forming what is called the rhizosphere, a zone of intense microbial activity. Here, plants release sugars, amino acids, and other compounds into the soil, feeding the bacteria. In return, these bacteria provide benefits beyond just nutrients. Some produce hormones that stimulate plant growth, causing roots to branch and extend further. Others produce enzymes that break down toxins in the soil, protecting the plant. Still others activate the plant's own immune system, priming it to respond more quickly to attacks by pests or diseases. Scientists are discovering that plants can even communicate with bacteria, releasing specific compounds when under stress. The bacteria respond by ramping up their production of protective chemicals. It is a conversation, a chemical dialogue happening in the darkness of the soil, essential to the health of the plant, but invisible to our eyes. Bacteria can survive extreme conditions by forming resilient spores. Life in soil is unpredictable. Conditions can change rapidly from wet to dry, from warm to freezing, from abundant food to starvation. To survive these fluctuations, many bacteria have evolved the ability to form spores, tough, dormant structures that can endure extreme conditions. When a bacterial cell forms a spore, it encases a copy of its genetic material in multiple protective layers. The spore shuts down all metabolic activity, entering a state of suspended animation. In this form, bacteria can survive for decades, even centuries, waiting patiently for conditions to improve. They can withstand desiccation, freezing, heat, radiation, and even some chemical disinfectants. When moisture and warmth return, the spore germinates, bursting open to release a new bacterial cell that resumes growth and reproduction. This ability to endure allows bacteria to persist in soils across the world, from the driest deserts to the coldest tundras. They are patient, resilient, and nearly indestructible, microscopic survivors that have outlasted countless changes in Earth's history. Some soil bacteria produce compounds used in human medicine. Soil has given humanity more than just food. It has also given us medicine. Many of the antibiotics, anti-cancer drugs, and immunosuppressants used today were originally discovered in soil bacteria, particularly a group called Actinomycetes. Streptomycin, the first antibiotic effective against tuberculosis, came from a soil bacterium. So did tetracycline, erythromycin, and many others. Scientists estimate that soil bacteria produce thousands of different bioactive compounds, many of which we have yet to discover or understand. Each handful of soil is a potential pharmacy, filled with molecules that could one day save lives. The reason soil bacteria produce these compounds is not to help humans, of course. They produce them to compete with other microbes in the soil, to carve out space and access to resources. But in doing so, they have created a treasure trove of chemicals with potent effects on living cells. As antibiotic resistance becomes a growing concern, researchers are returning to the soil, searching for new compounds that can fight infections. The earth beneath our feet may hold the cures for diseases we have yet to encounter. Bacteria help create the soil structure that holds air and water. Soil is more than just tiny particles of rock and organic matter. It has structure, an architecture that determines how well it functions. Good soil structure means particles are bound together into small clumps, creating spaces for air and water. Poor structure means the soil is dense, compacted, and difficult for roots to penetrate. Bacteria play a key role in creating and maintaining soil structure, As they grow, they secrete sticky substances called polysaccharides. These substances act like glue, binding soil particles together into stable aggregates. The aggregates resist being washed away by rain or crushed by footsteps or machinery. Other microbes, especially fungi with their thread-like hyphae, also contribute to structure by physically enmeshing particles. Together, bacteria and fungi create a soil that is loose and crumbly, rich in pores, able to absorb and hold water while still allowing excess to drain away. This structure is vital for plant growth and for the countless creatures that live in soil. Without it, soil would be lifeless dust or impenetrable clay. The decomposers. Decomposers recycle every leaf, every fallen log, every dead creature. Nothing in nature is wasted. Every leaf that falls, every branch that breaks, every animal that dies, all of it returns to the soil. And there, an army of decomposers waits. Bacteria, fungi, beetles, springtails, mites, and earthworms all work together to break down organic matter, transforming death into the building blocks of new life. Decomposition is a gradual process. First, the larger detritivores. Creatures like beetles and earthworms tear and chew the material, breaking it into smaller pieces. This increases the surface area, making it easier for bacteria and fungi to attack. These microbes secrete enzymes that digest the material externally, breaking complex molecules into simpler compounds. As decomposition proceeds, nutrients are released into the soil. Nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and countless trace elements that were locked in living tissue become available again. Plants absorb these nutrients through their roots, using them to build new leaves, flowers, and seeds. In this way, the same atoms cycle again and again through the ecosystem, from soil to plant to animal and back to soil, an endless wheel of transformation. Decomposition is faster in warm, moist soils and slower in cold or dry conditions. The speed of decomposition depends greatly on the environment. In tropical rainforests, where it is warm and wet year-round, fallen leaves may decompose in just a few months. The forest floor is thin, almost non-existent, because organic matter is recycled so quickly. In contrast, in cold northern forests or high mountain regions, decomposition slows to a crawl. A fallen log may take decades to rot completely. Organic matter accumulates in thick layers, forming rich, spongy soils called moor or duff. The cold temperatures slow microbial activity, and the short growing season means decomposers have less time to work. Moisture is equally important. In deserts, lack of water limits decomposition. Dead plants may remain intact for years, slowly weathering in the dry air. But when rain does come, decomposers spring to life, working rapidly before the moisture disappears again. The rhythm of decomposition follows the rhythm of the environment, fast or slow, but always continuing, always transforming the old into the new. Some organisms specialize in breaking down specific types of material. The world of decomposers is highly specialized. Different organisms have evolved to break down different types of organic matter, each using unique enzymes and strategies. Some fungi specialize in decomposing wood, particularly the tough lignin that gives trees their strength. Others focus on softer materials like leaves or animal waste. Among bacteria, some are experts at breaking down proteins, others at digesting fats or simple sugars. Some thrive in acidic conditions, others in alkaline soils. Some work best in the presence of oxygen, while others prefer oxygen-free environments deep in the soil. This specialization means that decomposition is a team effort. No single organism can break down a fallen tree on its own. But together, with each species contributing its particular skills, the entire community can reduce even the largest log to rich, dark humus. It is a symphony of decomposition, each player essential, each contributing to the harmony of the whole. Humus is the dark, stable form of organic matter that enriches soil. As decomposition progresses, organic matter is gradually transformed. Fresh leaves and twigs are broken down into smaller fragments, then into a partially decomposed state called compost, and eventually into a dark, crumbly substance called humus. Humus is remarkably stable. Unlike fresh organic matter, which decomposes rapidly, humus can persist in soil for decades, even centuries. It resists further breakdown because its chemical structure is complex and resistant to microbial attack. This stability is valuable because humus acts as a reservoir of nutrients, slowly releasing them over time as plants need them. Humus also improves soil in many other ways. It increases the soil's ability to hold water, acting like a sponge that retains moisture during dry periods. It improves soil structure, making it easier for roots to grow. It provides habitat for countless microorganisms, and it gives healthy soil its characteristic dark color, a visual signal of fertility and life. In many ways, humus is the gold standard of soil health. Soils rich in humus are productive, resilient, and able to support diverse communities of plants and animals. Building humus takes time, the result of years or decades of organic matter being added and transformed, but the benefits are profound and lasting. Detritivores like springtails and mites are among the most abundant animals on Earth. When we think of soil animals, we might picture earthworms or beetles, but the most abundant creatures are far smaller. Springtails, tiny six-legged arthropods, can number in the hundreds of thousands per square meter of soil. Mites, even smaller and more diverse, can be equally numerous. These creatures are detritivores, feeding on dead plant material, fungi, and bacteria. As they chew and digest organic matter, they break it into smaller pieces, speeding decomposition. Their fecal pellets are rich in nutrients and serve as food for bacteria and fungi, further accelerating the recycling of nutrients. Despite their tiny size, springtails and mites have a huge impact. They are responsible for much of the initial breakdown of leaf litter in forests and gardens. They help create soil structure by moving through the soil and mixing organic and mineral particles. And they serve as food for larger predators like beetles, spiders, and centipedes, forming the base of the soil food web. Most people never see these creatures. They are too small, too secretive, hidden in the darkness beneath our feet, but their numbers and their industry make them indispensable. Without them, the world would look very different, choked with undecomposed plant material, its nutrients locked away and unavailable. Some beetles spend their entire lives underground, never seeing sunlight. The soil is a habitat as complex as any forest canopy or coral reef. Countless species of beetles, many of them still unknown to science, live their entire lives underground. They burrow through the darkness, hunting for prey, laying eggs, and raising young, all without ever seeing the sun. Some of these beetles are predators, hunting smaller invertebrates like mites and springtails. Others are scavengers, feeding on dead roots or fungi. Still others are specialists, adapted to feed on very specific types of organic matter, or living in very specific microhabitats within the soil. These beetles have evolved remarkable adaptations for life underground. Many are blind or have very small eyes, relying instead on touch and chemical signals to navigate. They have powerful legs for digging and flattened bodies that allow them to squeeze through narrow crevices. Some have long antennae covered in sensory hairs, helping them detect food and predators in the pitch-black environment. To us, the soil may seem dark and featureless, but to these beetles, it is a rich landscape, full of opportunities and challenges. A world as vivid and real as the world above. The engineers of the underground ants and termites build vast colonies that aerate and enrich soil. Ants and termites are among the most impressive engineers in the animal kingdom. Some species build enormous underground colonies, with tunnels and chambers extending many feet into the earth. A single colony can house millions of individuals, all working together with remarkable coordination. As these insects dig, they move vast amounts of soil. Their tunnels create pathways for air and water, improving soil aeration and drainage. In many ecosystems, ants and termites are responsible for turning over more soil than earthworms. They bring subsoil to the surface, mixing nutrients and changing the texture of the earth. Termites, particularly in tropical regions, also play a crucial role in decomposing wood and other plant material. They have symbiotic bacteria and protozoa in their guts that help them digest cellulose, allowing them to break down tough plant fibers that few other creatures can handle. The material that passes through a termite colony is transformed into nutrient-rich soil, enriching the landscape. These colonies can last for decades, some even for a century or more. The mounds built by some termite species become landmarks, towering structures that shape the local environment, providing habitat for other creatures and altering water flow and vegetation patterns. Some ants cultivate fungi gardens deep within their nests. Leafcutter ants, found in Central and South America, are farmers. They cut leaves from trees and carry them back to their underground nests, not to eat directly, but to feed to fungi. These ants cultivate vast gardens of fungus deep within their colonies, tending them carefully, removing weeds, and harvesting the fungus as food. The relationship between the ants and their fungus is ancient, dating back millions of years. The fungus depends entirely on the ants for survival, and the ants depend on the fungus for food. Neither can exist without the other. The ants even carry a piece of the fungus with them when a queen leaves to start a new colony, ensuring the partnership continues. These fungus gardens have a significant impact on the soil. As the ants bring in organic matter and the fungus breaks it down, nutrients are concentrated in the nest. Over time, the soil around ant colonies becomes enriched, more fertile than the surrounding earth. When a colony is eventually abandoned, plants quickly colonize the site, thriving in the nutrient-rich soil left behind. Burrowing mammals like gophers and moles turn over soil as they hunt for food. Not all soil engineers are small. Larger mammals also play important roles in shaping soil. Gophers, moles, and badgers dig extensive burrow systems as they search for roots, bulbs, insects, and worms. In the process, they move large amounts of soil, bringing subsoil to the surface and mixing organic matter downward. This activity is called bioturbation, and it has profound effects. It increases soil aeration, improves water infiltration, and creates habitat for smaller creatures. The mounds created by burrowing mammals are often colonized by different plant species than the surrounding area, increasing local plant diversity. In some ecosystems, these animals are so active that they can turn over the entire topsoil layer in just a few decades. This constant churning prevents soil from becoming compacted and stagnant. It keeps nutrients cycling and creates a dynamic, ever-changing landscape beneath the surface. Humans have sometimes viewed these animals as pests, but ecologists now recognize them as vital contributors to soil health. Their digging may seem destructive, but in reality, it is a form of rejuvenation, keeping soils loose, fertile, and alive. Plant roots themselves are soil engineers, creating channels and releasing compounds. We often think of roots as simply anchors, holding plants in place and absorbing water and nutrients. But roots are also engineers, actively shaping the soil around them. As roots grow, they push through soil, creating channels. When roots die and decompose, these channels remain, forming pathways for future roots, for air, and for water. Roots also release a wide variety of compounds into the soil, a process called exudation. These compounds include sugars, amino acids, enzymes, and organic acids. Some of these exudates dissolve minerals, releasing nutrients that the plant can absorb. Others attract beneficial bacteria and fungi, recruiting them to form partnerships. Roots can even release signals that repel harmful organisms or activate the plant's defenses. The zone immediately around roots, the rhizosphere, is one of the most biologically active areas in the entire soil. It can contain 10 to 100 times more microbes than the bulk soil just a few millimeters away. In this way, plants are not passive recipients of whatever the soil provides. They actively shape their environment, cultivating a community of microbes that supports their growth. It is a partnership, a co-creation of the living soil that sustains us all. Soil pores are as important as the solid particles themselves. When we think of soil, we often focus on the solid parts, the particles of sand, silt, and clay, the bits of organic matter. But healthy soil is as much space as solid. The pores, the gaps between particles, are where much of the action happens. These pores hold air and water, both essential for roots and soil organisms. After a rain, water fills the pores, and as it drains away, air moves in. This balance of water and air is critical. Too much water, and roots suffocate. Too little, and plants wilt. The size and distribution of pores determine how well soil manages this balance. Large pores, called macropores, allow water to drain quickly and provide pathways for roots and burrowing creatures. Smaller pores, micropores, hold water more tightly, acting as reservoirs during dry periods. A well-structured soil has a mix of both. The activities of earthworms, roots, fungi, and bacteria all contribute to creating and maintaining these pores. When soil is compacted by heavy machinery, or even by foot traffic, these pores collapse. Water cannot penetrate. Air cannot circulate. Roots struggle to grow. The soil, in essence, suffocates. Protecting soil structure means protecting these invisible but essential spaces. The diversity of soil life. There may be more species in a handful of soil than in an entire forest canopy. Biodiversity is not just found in tropical rainforests or coral reefs. Some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth exist in soil. A single handful of forest soil may contain more species than live in the entire canopy of trees above. Thousands of species of bacteria, hundreds of species of fungi, and countless invertebrates all coexist in that small space. This diversity is largely invisible to us. Most soil organisms are microscopic or so small and secretive that they escape notice. Scientists estimate that we have identified only a tiny fraction of soil species, perhaps less than 1%. The rest remain unknown, unnamed, their roles in the ecosystem still mysteries. This hidden diversity matters. More diverse soils are more resilient. better able to withstand stresses like drought, flooding, or pollution. They cycle nutrients more efficiently and support healthier plant growth. Protecting soil biodiversity is as important as protecting rainforests or oceans, yet it receives far less attention. Soil scientists have identified over 25,000 species of nematodes worldwide. Nematodes, also called roundworms, are among the most abundant and diverse animals on Earth. They are found everywhere, from the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountains, and soil is one of their primary habitats. Scientists have identified more than 25,000 species of nematodes, and many experts believe the true number could be 1 million or more. In soil, nematodes occupy every imaginable niche. Some feed on bacteria, others on fungi. Some are predators, hunting smaller nematodes and other microscopic animals. Still, others are parasites, attacking plant roots or even other soil invertebrates. Most are harmless or beneficial, but a few are serious agricultural pests. Nematodes are incredibly abundant. A single square meter of soil may contain millions of them. Despite their tiny size, usually less than 1 millimeter long, their collective impact is enormous. They help cycle nutrients by feeding on bacteria and fungi and releasing nitrogen in forms that plants can use. They are also important food for larger soil animals, forming a crucial link in the soil food web. Looking at nematodes under a microscope reveals a world of elegant forms. They glide through water films in the soil with sinuous grace, their transparent bodies allowing you to see their internal organs. Some have specialized mouthparts for piercing plant cells or fungal hyphae. Others have crushing plates for grinding bacteria. Each species is perfectly adapted to its particular way of life. Protozoa patrol the soil, grazing on bacteria and recycling nutrients. Protozoa are single-celled organisms, more complex than bacteria but still microscopic. In soil, they are incredibly numerous, with tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands inhabiting each gram. They play a vital role in nutrient cycling, particularly nitrogen. Protozoa feed primarily on bacteria, consuming them by the millions. As they digest these bacteria, they release excess nitrogen in the form of ammonium, which plants can readily absorb. This process, called the microbial loop, makes nutrients that would otherwise be locked in bacterial cells available to the broader ecosystem. There are many types of soil protozoa. Flagellates have whip-like structures for movement. Ciliates are covered in tiny hair-like structures that beat in coordinated waves. Amoebas move by extending and retracting their cell bodies, flowing through soil pores like living jelly. Each group has its preferred habitat within the soil, and together they help regulate bacterial populations and keep nutrients flowing. Without protozoa, bacteria would multiply unchecked, tying up nutrients. Plant growth would suffer. The balance of the soil ecosystem would collapse. These tiny hunters, invisible to the naked eye, are as essential as any larger creature. Some bacteria form glowing partnerships with certain insects and worms. The soil holds countless surprises, and one of the most enchanting is bioluminescence. Certain bacteria, particularly species of photohabders and xenohabders, produce light through chemical reactions. These bacteria form symbiotic relationships with nematodes, living inside them and helping them hunt and kill insect larvae in the soil. When the nematode invades an insect larva, it releases these bacteria into the insect's body. The bacteria multiply rapidly, killing the insect and producing light as they do so. The glow may help attract the nematodes to the site or may ward off other predators. The nematodes feed on the bacteria and the liquefied insect tissues, then pick up a new batch of bacteria before leaving to find another host. This partnership is remarkably efficient. The bacteria get food and transport. The nematodes get a powerful weapon against their prey. And in some cases, the infected insect larvae glow with an eerie blue-green light, creating a strange, otherworldly sight in the dark spaces of the soil. Though we rarely see it, bioluminescence in soil reminds us that even in the darkness beneath our feet, there is light, beauty, and wonder. Tardigrades, the microscopic water bears, thrive in soil. Among the most resilient creatures on Earth are tardigrades, also called water bears or moss piglets. These microscopic animals, usually less than 0.5 millimeter long, are found in soil and leaf litter around the world. They have plump, segmented bodies and 8 legs ending in claws, giving them a bear-like appearance under the microscope. Tardigrades feed on plant cells, bacteria, or smaller invertebrates, using their needle-like mouthparts to pierce cells and suck out the contents. They move slowly, lumbering through the water films that coat soil particles, hence their common name. What makes tardigrades truly remarkable is their ability to survive extreme conditions. When their environment dries out, tardigrades enter a state called cryptobiosis. They retract their legs, shrivel into a tiny barrel shape, and shut down all metabolic processes. In this state, they can survive temperatures near absolute zero, heat above boiling, intense radiation, and even the vacuum of space. They can remain dormant for years, even decades, reviving within hours when moisture returns. This extraordinary resilience has made tardigrades subjects of scientific fascination. They have been sent into space, frozen, irradiated, and subjected to every extreme imaginable, yet they survive. In the soil, this toughness allows them to persist through droughts, freezes, and other harsh conditions that would kill most creatures. Springtails can leap many times their body length to escape predators. Springtails are tiny, primitive insects found in almost every soil on Earth. Most are only 1 millimeter or 2 long, yet they are capable of impressive acrobatic feats. They have a forked appendage called a furcula tucked under their abdomen. When threatened, they release this furcula like a spring, launching themselves into the air. A springtail can jump several inches, which may not sound impressive until you realize it is leaping dozens of times its own body length. Imagine a human jumping over a 50-story building. This ability helps them escape predators like mites, spiders, beetles that hunt in the leaf litter, and topsoil. Springtails feed on decaying plant material, fungi, and bacteria, playing an important role in decomposition. They are incredibly abundant, sometimes reaching densities of hundreds of thousands per square meter. In healthy soil, their presence is a good sign, indicating plenty of organic matter and moisture. They come in many colors: white, yellow, orange, purple, even metallic blues and greens. Under magnification, they are strikingly beautiful, with intricate patterns and textures on their bodies. Yet they go about their lives unseen by most people, hopping through the darkness, essential actors in the endless cycle of decay and renewal. Soil mites are among the most diverse arthropods, with thousands of species. Mites are everywhere in soil, yet few people know they exist. These tiny arachnids, relatives of spiders and ticks, are among the most diverse groups of animals on Earth. Thousands of species inhabit soil, and scientists estimate that many more remain undiscovered. Soil mites range in size from barely visible to about 1 millimeter long. They occupy countless ecological roles. Some feed on fungi, others on bacteria or decaying plant material. Some are predators, hunting springtails, nematodes, and other mites. Some are scavengers, cleaning up whatever organic debris they find. Many soil mites have heavily armored bodies, protecting them from desiccation and predators. Others are soft-bodied and move quickly through soil pores. Some have elaborate mouthparts for piercing and sucking. Others have grinding mandibles for chewing. The diversity of form and function is staggering. Despite their abundance and importance, soil mites are poorly known. Identifying species requires expert knowledge and powerful microscopes. Many groups have been studied only superficially, yet their collective impact on decomposition, nutrient cycling, and soil structure is immense. They are hidden giants, tiny in size but vast in their influence. Soil harbors creatures that have existed relatively unchanged for millions of years. The soil is not just a habitat for the present, it is also a refuge for the past. Many soil organisms are ancient lineages, forms of life that have persisted with little change for tens or even hundreds of millions of years. They are living fossils, windows into Earth's deep history. Tardigrades have existed for at least 500 million years, surviving every mass extinction event. Certain springtails belong to lineages that date back 400 million years. Some soil fungi and bacteria are even older, their forms of metabolism perhaps dating back to the earliest days of life on Earth. These ancient creatures have survived because soil provides a relatively stable environment. While the surface world changes dramatically, with ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts, the soil offers protection. Temperature fluctuates less underground. Moisture is more consistent. The soil acts as a buffer against catastrophe. To hold a handful of soil is to hold a piece of deep time, a community of organisms that have witnessed the rise and fall of dinosaurs, the uplift of mountains, and the flowering of the first plants on land. They have endured, patient and resilient, and they continue their quiet work today as they have for countless ages. The breath of the soil breathes, exchanging gases with the atmosphere above. We do not often think of soil as breathing, but it does. Constantly, quietly, it exchanges gases with the air above. Soil organisms, from bacteria to earthworms, consume oxygen as they respire, breaking down organic matter and releasing energy. As they do so, they produce carbon dioxide, just as we do when we breathe. This carbon dioxide diffuses upward through the soil pores and is released into the atmosphere. At the same time, oxygen from the air moves down into the soil, replenishing what organisms have used. This exchange is essential. Without it, soil would become anaerobic, oxygen-starved, and hostile to most forms of life. The rate of soil respiration varies with temperature, moisture, and the amount of organic matter present. In warm, moist conditions, soil respiration increases dramatically. Organisms are more active, decomposing faster, breathing harder. In cold or dry conditions, respiration slows, and the soil seems to hold its breath, waiting for better times. Scientists measure soil respiration to assess soil health and to understand how much carbon is being released into the atmosphere. Healthy, active soils respire more, but they also store more carbon in stable forms, like humus. It is a delicate balance, one that affects not just the soil, but the entire climate system. Healthy soil is one of Earth's largest carbon sinks. The soil beneath our feet holds more carbon than all the plants and atmosphere combined. Estimates suggest that soils contain around 2,500 gigatons of carbon, making them one of the largest active carbon reservoirs on the planet. This carbon is stored primarily in organic matter, in the bodies of microbes, in humus, and in the remains of countless organisms. This storage is crucial for regulating Earth's climate. When soil is healthy and undisturbed, it continues to accumulate carbon, pulling it out of the atmosphere where it would otherwise contribute to warming. Grasslands, forests, and wetlands all store vast amounts of carbon in their soils, acting as natural climate regulators. But when soil is damaged through erosion, excessive tilling, or deforestation, this carbon is released back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. The loss of soil carbon is a significant contributor to climate change. Protecting and restoring soils is not just about food production or biodiversity. It is about the stability of our entire climate system. Some scientists believe that improving soil health worldwide could sequester gigatons of carbon, helping to mitigate climate change. By rebuilding organic matter in soils, through practices like cover cropping, composting, and reducing tillage, we can turn soils from carbon sources back into carbon sinks. Methane-producing bacteria thrive in waterlogged, oxygen-poor soils. Not all soil organisms breathe oxygen. In waterlogged soils, such as wetlands, rice paddies, or the bottom of a compost pile, oxygen becomes scarce or absent. In these anaerobic conditions, a different set of microbes takes over, including methanogens, bacteria that produce methane as a byproduct of their metabolism. Methanogens break down organic matter in the absence of oxygen, producing methane gas. This gas bubbles up through the waterlogged soil and is released into the atmosphere. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, far more effective at trapping heat than carbon dioxide, though it persists for a shorter time. Wetlands are the largest natural source of methane emissions, and rice paddies, which cover millions of acres worldwide, are also significant contributors. However, other microbes, called methanotrophs, consume methane, using it as an energy source. In healthy wetlands, methanotrophs can consume much of the methane before it reaches the atmosphere, reducing emissions. The balance between methane production and consumption in soil is delicate, influenced by water levels, temperature, and the types of plants growing. Understanding this balance is crucial as we try to manage greenhouse gas emissions and protect the climate. Soil can filter and purify water as it percolates downward. One of soil's most valuable services, often overlooked, is its ability to clean water. As rainwater or irrigation water percolates through soil, it passes through layers of organic matter, clay, and aggregates. Along the way, soil filters out sediments, pathogens, and pollutants. Bacteria and fungi in the soil break down many organic contaminants, including pesticides, petroleum products, and pharmaceuticals. Clay particles and humus bind heavy metals and other toxins, preventing them from reaching groundwater. Plant roots and their associated microbes also take up and neutralize various pollutants. This natural filtration is so effective that soil is sometimes used in constructed wetlands and biofilters to treat wastewater. In healthy landscapes, soil acts as a living purification system, ensuring that the water entering aquifers and streams is cleaner than the water that fell as rain. But soil's filtration capacity is not unlimited. When soils are degraded, compacted, or stripped of organic matter, their ability to filter water declines. Contaminants move more easily through damaged soil, polluting groundwater and surface water. Protecting soil structure and health is essential for protecting water quality. Certain bacteria can break down pollutants like oil and pesticides. Soil contains remarkable natural detoxifiers. Certain bacteria have evolved the ability to break down complex, toxic chemicals, using them as sources of energy or nutrients. These bacteria can degrade petroleum products from oil spills, pesticides from agricultural runoff, and even industrial solvents. The process, called bioremediation, is increasingly used to clean up contaminated sites. Scientists introduce or stimulate native bacteria in polluted soil, providing them with nutrients and optimal conditions to multiply. Over time, these bacteria can break down pollutants into harmless byproducts like carbon dioxide and water. Some bacteria work aerobically, requiring oxygen, while others thrive in anaerobic conditions. The choice of which bacteria to use depends on the type of pollutant and the characteristics of the soil. In many cases, a naturally diverse soil community can handle a variety of pollutants, breaking them down more effectively than any single species could. This natural detoxification is a testament to the ingenuity of evolution. Over millions of years, bacteria have adapted to countless chemical environments, developing enzymes capable of dismantling even synthetic compounds that have only existed for a few decades. The soil is a living pharmacy, a chemical factory, constantly working to restore balance. Heavy metals can accumulate in soil, but are sometimes absorbed by specific plants. Industrial activity, mining, and even the long-term use of certain fertilizers can lead to the accumulation of heavy metals like lead, cadmium, mercury, and arsenic in soil. These metals are toxic to most organisms, even in small amounts, and can persist for decades or centuries. In contaminated soils, heavy metals bind to clay particles and organic matter, making them less mobile but not removing them. Over time, they can leach into groundwater or be taken up by plants, entering the food chain and posing risks to human health. However, some plants, called hyperaccumulators, have evolved the ability to tolerate and even concentrate heavy metals in their tissues. Scientists are exploring the use of these plants in a process called phytoremediation, where contaminated soils are planted with hyperaccumulators. The plants absorb the metals, which are then harvested and disposed of safely, or even recycled. This green technology offers a low-cost, environmentally friendly way to clean up polluted soils. It is slower than some methods, but it can be effective over time and has the added benefit of restoring vegetation to damaged landscapes. The soil and water connection soil acts like a sponge, absorbing and holding water. One of soil's most important functions is managing water. After a rain, healthy soil absorbs water rapidly, acting like a sponge. The water fills the pores between soil particles, where it is held by surface tension and capillary forces. This stored water is available to plant roots, sustaining growth during dry periods. The amount of water soil can hold depends on its texture and structure. Clay soils, with their tiny particles and small pores, can hold a lot of water, but much of it is bound so tightly that plants struggle to extract it. Sandy soils, with large particles and pores, drain quickly and hold less water. Loamy soils, with a balanced mix of sand, silt, and clay, offer the best combination, holding ample water while still draining well. Organic matter greatly increases soil's water-holding capacity. Humus can hold several times its weight in water, acting as a reservoir during droughts. This is one reason why soils rich in organic matter are more resilient and productive. When soil is compacted or degraded, its ability to absorb water declines. Water runs off the surface instead of soaking in, leading to erosion, flooding, and wasted moisture. Healthy soil is essential for managing water in the landscape, reducing both floods and droughts. Roots and fungal networks create channels that guide water deep into the earth. When roots grow through soil, they create channels. When they die and decompose, these channels remain, forming permanent pathways for water and air. Similarly, fungal hyphae create a network of fine threads that guide water through the soil. These channels, called macropores, allow water to move quickly into deeper layers, recharging groundwater and preventing surface runoff. They are particularly important during heavy rains. Without them, water would pool on the surface, causing erosion and flooding. In agricultural systems, the loss of these channels through repeated tillage or compaction is a major problem. Water cannot infiltrate, and fields become waterlogged or suffer from runoff. Practices that protect soil structure, like no-till farming or maintaining year-round plant cover, help preserve these vital pathways. In forests and grasslands, the network of roots and fungal threads is so extensive that water infiltrates rapidly, even during intense storms. The soil acts as a buffer, absorbing the impact of rain and releasing water slowly over time, sustaining streams and rivers long after the storm has passed. Soil microbes help plants access water during drought. During dry periods, plants face a critical challenge, accessing water from soil that is becoming increasingly dry. Soil microbes can help. Certain bacteria and fungi produce sticky substances that improve soil structure, creating aggregates that retain moisture even as the surrounding soil dries out. Mycorrhizal fungi extend the reach of plant roots, accessing water from pores and crevices that roots cannot reach. The vast hyphal networks act as an extension of the root system, drawing water from a much larger volume of soil. Some bacteria also produce compounds that help plants tolerate drought stress. They may trigger the plant to close its stomata, reducing water loss, or produce hormones that stimulate deeper root growth. This partnership becomes especially valuable in arid regions or during prolonged droughts. Research is increasingly focused on harnessing these relationships to improve crop resilience. By inoculating soils with beneficial microbes or managing soils to support diverse microbial communities, farmers may be able to grow crops with less irrigation, conserving water and reducing costs. Wetland soils store vast amounts of water and filter pollutants. Wetlands are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth, and their soils play a critical role. Wetland soils are often saturated or flooded for much of the year, creating unique conditions that support specialized plant and microbial communities. These soils act as natural water storage systems, absorbing floodwaters and releasing them slowly, reducing the impact of floods downstream. They also filter pollutants, trapping sediments and breaking down contaminants before water enters rivers, lakes, or aquifers. The anaerobic conditions in wetland soils support unique communities of bacteria that perform denitrification, converting nitrates from agricultural runoff into nitrogen gas, which is harmless and returns to the atmosphere. This process helps reduce nutrient pollution that would otherwise cause algal blooms and dead zones in coastal waters. Wetland soils are also massive carbon sinks. Because decomposition is slow in waterlogged, oxygen-poor conditions, organic matter accumulates, forming thick layers of peat. Peatlands store more carbon per acre than any other ecosystem, including forests. Protecting and restoring wetlands is crucial for water management, biodiversity, and climate stability. Soil erosion carries away the most fertile layer, impoverishing landscapes. Soil erosion is one of the greatest threats to soil health worldwide. When topsoil, the most fertile layer, is washed or blown away, it takes with it the organic matter, nutrients, and microorganisms that make soil productive. What remains is often subsoil, which is harder, less fertile, and more difficult for plants to grow in. Erosion is accelerated by poor land management. When soil is left bare, without plant cover, it is vulnerable to the erosive forces of wind and rain. Tilling breaks up soil structure, making it even more susceptible. On steep slopes, the problem is magnified, with entire hillsides sometimes washing away during heavy storms. The impacts of erosion extend beyond the field. Sediment clogs rivers and streams, smothering aquatic habitats. Nutrients and pollutants carried with the sediment degrade water quality. And the loss of topsoil reduces agricultural productivity, forcing farmers to apply more fertilizers and irrigation, creating a cycle of degradation. Preventing erosion requires maintaining plant cover, reducing tillage, building terraces on slopes, and protecting riparian buffers along waterways. Healthy, well-structured soil resists erosion, its aggregates holding together even during intense rain. Protecting soil is protecting the foundation of our food system and the health of our waterways. Cover crops and perennial plants protect soil from erosion. One of the most effective ways to prevent erosion is to keep soil covered with living plants. Cover crops, plants grown primarily to protect and enrich soil rather than for harvest, are increasingly used in agriculture. During periods when fields would otherwise be bare, cover crops hold soil in place with their roots and shield it from rain and wind with their foliage. These plants also add organic matter when they are eventually incorporated into the soil, improving structure and fertility. Some cover crops, like clover and vetch, fix nitrogen, reducing the need for synthetic fertilizers. Others, like radishes and rye, have deep roots that break up compacted layers and create channels for water and air. Perennial plants, which live for many years and do not need to be replanted annually, offer even greater protection. Their extensive root systems bind soil tightly, and they provide continuous cover year-round. Grasslands and forests, with their perennial vegetation, experience very little erosion compared to agricultural fields. Shifting toward agricultural systems that include more perennials and maintain continuous cover could dramatically reduce erosion, rebuild soil health, and enhance resilience to climate change. The solutions are often simple. Work with nature, not against it, and the soil will respond with abundance. The cycles of nutrients. Nitrogen cycles endlessly, from air to soil, to plants and back. Nitrogen is essential for all life, a key component of proteins, DNA, and many other molecules. Yet the vast majority of Earth's nitrogen is locked in the atmosphere as nitrogen gas, unusable by most organisms. The nitrogen cycle is the process by which this inert gas is converted into forms that life can use and then return to the atmosphere. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria, living in soil or in partnership with plants, capture nitrogen from the air and convert it into ammonia. Plants absorb this ammonia, along with nitrates produced by other bacteria, and use it to build proteins. When plants and animals die, decomposers break down these proteins, releasing nitrogen back into the soil. Some of this nitrogen is taken up by plants again, but some is converted back to nitrogen gas by denitrifying bacteria, completing the cycle. The nitrogen cycle is a perfect loop, constantly moving nitrogen through the biosphere, from air to soil to life and back to air. Human activities have dramatically altered the nitrogen cycle. The production of synthetic fertilizers has doubled the amount of reactive nitrogen in the environment, leading to pollution of waterways and emissions of nitrous oxide, a potent greenhouse gas. Understanding and respecting the natural nitrogen cycle is essential for sustainable agriculture and environmental health. Phosphorus is released slowly from rocks through weathering. Unlike nitrogen, which is abundant in the atmosphere, phosphorus comes primarily from rocks. Over geological time, weathering slowly breaks down phosphorus-containing minerals, releasing phosphate ions into the soil. This process is incredibly slow, making phosphorus one of the limiting nutrients in many ecosystems. Plants absorb phosphorus from the soil, and it becomes part of their tissues. When they die, decomposers release the phosphorus back into the soil, where it can be taken up again. Unlike nitrogen, phosphorus does not have a significant atmospheric component. It cycles primarily between rocks, soil, organisms, and sediments. Mycorrhizal fungi play a critical role in the phosphorus cycle. They can access phosphorus locked in organic matter or bound to soil particles that roots cannot reach. In many ecosystems, the availability of phosphorus depends heavily on these fungal partnerships. Human mining of phosphorus, primarily for fertilizers, has accelerated the movement of this nutrient through the environment. Phosphorus runoff into waterways causes eutrophication, leading to algal blooms and oxygen-depleted dead zones. Managing phosphorus carefully is essential for both food production and aquatic ecosystem health. Sulfur in soil is transformed by bacteria into forms plants can use. Sulfur is another essential nutrient, important for proteins and enzymes. It enters soil through weathering of rocks, decomposition of organic matter, and deposition from the atmosphere, particularly from volcanic activity and industrial emissions. Sulfur-oxidizing bacteria in soil convert elemental sulfur or sulfide minerals into sulfate, the form that plants absorb. Other bacteria reduce sulfate back to sulfide under anaerobic conditions, completing the sulfur cycle. These transformations are entirely microbial, carried out by bacteria that specialize in sulfur metabolism. In some soils, sulfur deficiency can limit plant growth, particularly in regions where acid rain has decreased or where intensive farming has depleted sulfur reserves. Sulfur fertilizers can help, but maintaining organic matter in soil, which serves as a reservoir of sulfur, is often more sustainable. The sulfur cycle, like other nutrient cycles, demonstrates the interconnectedness of soil life. Bacteria, plants, and the chemical environment all influence each other, creating a dynamic system that sustains productivity and resilience. Calcium and magnesium are essential for soil structure and plant health. Calcium and magnesium may not be as famous as nitrogen or phosphorus, but they are just as important. Calcium is crucial for cell wall structure in plants and for maintaining soil structure. It helps bind soil particles into stable aggregates, improving both aeration and water infiltration. Magnesium is a central component of chlorophyll, the molecule that captures sunlight in photosynthesis. Without adequate magnesium, plants cannot produce energy, and their leaves turn yellow, a condition called chlorosis. Both nutrients come from the weathering of rocks and minerals. In acidic soils, calcium and magnesium can leach away, leading to deficiencies. Adding lime, which is rich in calcium, is a common practice to raise soil pH and replenish these nutrients. Healthy soils maintain a balance of calcium, magnesium, and other nutrients. Too much of one can interfere with the uptake of another. The soil is a delicate chemical system, and managing it requires understanding the interactions between nutrients, microbes, and plants. Micronutrients like iron and zinc are needed in tiny amounts, but are vital for life. In addition to the major nutrients, all living things require trace amounts of various micronutrients. Iron, zinc, copper, manganese, boron, and molybdenum are all essential, each playing specific roles in enzymes and metabolic processes. Though needed in only tiny amounts, deficiencies of these micronutrients can severely limit growth. For example, iron deficiency causes chlorosis, as plants cannot produce chlorophyll properly. Zinc deficiency stunts growth and reduces yields. Boron is essential for cell wall formation and reproductive development. Micronutrients are present in most soils, derived from minerals and organic matter. However, their availability depends on soil pH, organic matter content, and microbial activity. In some soils, micronutrients are present, but locked in forms that plants cannot absorb. Mycorrhizal fungi and bacteria help solubilize these nutrients, making them available. Managing soil for micronutrient availability often means managing soil health broadly, maintaining pH in the optimal range, adding organic matter, and supporting a diverse microbial community. When these foundations are in place, micronutrient problems are rare. Soil and plant partnerships. Plant roots exude sugars to attract beneficial microbes. The relationship between plants and soil microbes begins with a simple exchange. Plants photosynthesize, capturing energy from sunlight and converting it into sugars. A significant portion of these sugars, often 20 to 40%, is released from roots into the surrounding soil. This may seem wasteful, but it is actually a sophisticated strategy. The sugars attract bacteria and fungi, which multiply rapidly in the nutrient-rich zone around the roots. These microbes, in turn, provide services to the plant, breaking down organic matter, releasing nutrients, protecting against pathogens, and improving soil structure. The composition of root exudates changes depending on the plant's needs. When a plant is stressed by drought, it may release compounds that attract bacteria known to help with water uptake. When under attack by pests, it may release signals that recruit beneficial fungi or activate the plant's own defenses. This chemical communication is complex and still not fully understood, but it is clear that plants are not passive. They actively shape the microbial community around their roots, cultivating allies and discouraging enemies. The rhizosphere is a co-created environment, a partnership zone where plant and microbe work together. Legumes house nitrogen-fixing bacteria in special root nodules. Legumes, the plant family that includes beans, peas, clover, and alfalfa, have a special talent. They form partnerships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria, primarily from the genus Rhizobium. The bacteria infect the plant's roots and trigger the formation of nodules, specialized structures where nitrogen fixation occurs. Inside the nodule, the bacteria convert atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia, which the plant uses to make proteins. In return, the plant provides the bacteria with sugars and a protected environment. It is one of nature's most successful partnerships, allowing legumes to thrive in nitrogen-poor soils where other plants struggle. When legume plants die or are incorporated into soil, the nitrogen they contain enriches the soil for the next crop. This is why crop rotations often include a legume year, allowing fields to recover nitrogen naturally without synthetic fertilizers. The nodules are visible as small bumps on legume roots. Slicing one open reveals a pink or red interior, colored by a molecule called legumoglobin, which regulates oxygen levels to protect the nitrogen-fixing process. It is a small marvel of biological engineering, millions of years in the making. Some plants release chemicals that suppress weeds or pests. Plants are not merely passive inhabitants of the soil. Some release chemicals that actively shape their environment, a phenomenon called allelopathy. These compounds can inhibit the growth of competing plants, giving the allelopathic plant an advantage. Black walnut trees, for example, produce a compound called juglone, which is toxic to many plants. This chemical leaches from the tree's roots leaves, and nuts into the soil, creating a zone where few other plants can grow. Similarly, some cover crops, like rye, release chemicals that suppress weed seeds, reducing the need for herbicides. Allelopathy can also target pests. Some plants release root exudates that repel nematodes or inhibit fungal pathogens. Others attract beneficial predators that consume pests. This chemical warfare and diplomacy is subtle and complex, operating beneath the surface where we rarely see it. Understanding allelopathy can help in designing agricultural systems. By selecting plants that suppress weeds or pests naturally, farmers can reduce their reliance on chemical inputs, creating more sustainable and resilient systems. Grasses have extensive root systems that build soil organic matter. Grasses, including prairie grasses, wheat, and rice, have fibrous root systems that extend in all directions, creating dense mats. These roots are not just for absorbing water and nutrients. They are also soil builders. Grass roots constantly grow and die back, especially the fine root hairs. This turnover adds a steady supply of organic matter directly into the soil. Over time, grasslands build deep, rich soils, sometimes with topsoil layers several feet thick. The dense root mat also stabilizes soil, preventing erosion even on steep slopes or in harsh weather. Grasslands are among the most erosion-resistant ecosystems, their soils held firmly in place by millions of interlocking roots. In agricultural systems, incorporating grasses or grass-like cover crops can help rebuild soil structure and organic matter. The benefits accumulate over time, creating soils that are more productive, more resilient, and better able to support diverse life. Trees send nutrients to neighboring trees through fungal networks. Recent research has revealed something astonishing about forests. Trees are connected underground through vast fungal networks, and they use these connections to share resources. When one tree has excess nutrients or sugars, it can send them through the fungal network to neighbors, especially to younger trees that are struggling. Scientists call this the wood wide web, and it challenges our understanding of forests as purely competitive environments. Mother trees, the largest and oldest, seem to play a central role, supporting their offspring and maintaining the health of the forest community. The fungal networks also carry warning signals. When one tree is attacked by insects, it can send chemical signals through the network, alerting neighboring trees to activate their defenses. This early warning system helps the entire forest respond to threats more effectively. This discovery has profound implications for forestry and conservation. Clear-cutting not only removes trees, but also destroys the fungal networks that sustain them. Preserving older trees and maintaining forest connectivity may be essential for forest resilience and regeneration. Different plants host different communities of soil microbes. Just as different animals have different gut microbiomes, different plants cultivate different communities of soil microbes around their roots. An oak tree hosts a different microbial community than a corn plant or a tomato. These differences arise because each plant species releases a unique blend of root exudates. The chemicals in these exudates attract specific microbes while discouraging others. Over time, each plant builds a custom community tailored to its needs. This has important implications for agriculture. Monocultures, where the same crop is grown year after year, can lead to the buildup of specialized pathogens and the loss of microbial diversity. Crop rotations, by contrast, disrupt pathogen cycles and support a more diverse soil community. Intercropping, growing multiple species together, can enhance microbial diversity even further. Each plant supports different microbes, and the combined community is more complex and resilient. Traditional farming systems around the world have long used intercropping, and modern science is beginning to understand why it works so well. Soil across landscapes. Forest soils are rich in organic matter from countless fallen leaves. Walk into a mature forest, and you will notice the soft, spongy feel of the forest floor beneath your feet. This is the result of countless years of leaves, branches, and plant material falling and accumulating. The forest floor is a thick layer of organic matter in various stages of decomposition. At the surface are fresh leaves and twigs, still recognizable. Beneath is a layer where decomposition is well underway, the materials partially broken down. Deeper still is humus, dark and crumbly, no longer resembling the original plant material. These layers form the O horizon, the organic layer that sits atop the mineral soil. This organic matter feeds a rich community of decomposers and creates a reservoir of nutrients. It also acts as a sponge, absorbing rain and releasing it slowly, maintaining streams and groundwater. Forest soils are among the most biologically active on Earth, teeming with life from the surface down through the root zone. Protecting forests means protecting these soils. When forests are cleared, the organic layer quickly disappears, either eroding away or decomposing rapidly in the open sunlight. The loss is difficult to reverse, taking decades or centuries for new forests to rebuild the soil they depend on. Grassland soils are among the deepest and richest on Earth. Grasslands, particularly the tall grass prairies that once covered vast areas of North America and the steppes of Eurasia, have some of the deepest, most fertile soils in the world. These soils, called mollisols, can have topsoil layers 6 feet deep or more, rich in organic matter and nutrients. The secret to these soils is the grasses themselves. Their extensive root systems, which can extend as deep as the plants are tall, constantly add organic matter to the soil. The roots grow and die back each year, leaving behind a dense network of channels and organic material. Over thousands of years, this process builds deep, dark soils. These soils are incredibly productive. When prairies were converted to agriculture, they produced bountiful crops with little need for fertilizers. But decades of intensive farming have depleted much of that organic matter, reducing productivity and increasing the need for inputs. Efforts to restore prairie ecosystems and adopt prairie-inspired agricultural practices are underway. Perennial grain crops, deep-rooted cover crops, and rotational grazing can help rebuild the organic matter and restore the fertility that made these soils so valuable in the first place. Desert soils support life despite extreme dryness. Deserts may seem lifeless, but their soils harbor surprising biodiversity. Desert soils are often low in organic matter because plant growth is limited by lack of water, but they are not sterile. Specialized bacteria, fungi, and other microbes have adapted to survive long dry periods, springing to life when rare rains arrive. Many desert soils develop a biological soil crust, a living layer of cyanobacteria, lichens, mosses, and fungi that covers the surface. This crust stabilizes the soil, preventing erosion by wind. It also captures moisture and nitrogen, making nutrients available to the sparse desert plants. The crust is fragile. A single footstep or tire track can destroy it, and it may take decades to recover. Protecting these crusts is essential for maintaining desert ecosystems and preventing desertification. Beneath the surface, desert soils can have layers of accumulated salts or calcium carbonate, called caliche. These layers form over thousands of years as minerals are dissolved by rare rains and then precipitate as the water evaporates. They tell the story of a landscape shaped by scarcity, where every drop of water leaves a lasting mark. Wetland soils are rich but often acidic and oxygen poor. Wetland soils are unique. They are saturated with water for much or all of the year, creating conditions where oxygen is scarce. This limits decomposition, so organic matter accumulates, sometimes forming thick layers of peat. Peat soils are among the richest in organic matter, sometimes more than 90% organic, but they are also acidic and nutrient poor in some elements. Specialized plants like sphagnum moss thrive in these conditions, further contributing to peat formation. Wetlands are critical ecosystems, providing habitat for countless species, filtering water and storing vast amounts of carbon. Peatlands alone store more carbon than all the world's forests combined. Draining wetlands for agriculture or development releases this carbon as carbon dioxide, contributing to climate change. Efforts to restore and protect wetlands are increasing. Re-wetting drained peatlands can halt carbon emissions and restore habitat. Protecting existing wetlands ensures that these valuable ecosystems continue to provide their services. Water filtration, flood control, climate regulation. Mountain soils are thin and young, constantly renewed by erosion. In mountainous regions, soils are often shallow and rocky. Steep slopes and harsh weather limit soil formation, and erosion constantly removes material. Yet life persists, and soils in mountains play critical roles in water capture and storage. Mountain soils are often young, geologically speaking. They have not had time to develop deep layers or accumulate much organic matter, but they are dynamic, constantly renewed by weathering of bedrock and deposition of material from upslope. Plants in mountain ecosystems are adapted to these challenging conditions. Alpine meadows, for example, have dense mats of roots that hold soil in place and capture moisture from snowmelt. Trees at higher elevations grow slowly, but their roots penetrate cracks in rock, gradually breaking it down and contributing to soil formation. Mountain soils are particularly vulnerable to disturbance. Overgrazing, logging, or construction can trigger erosion that takes centuries to recover. Protecting mountain soils means protecting the watersheds that supply water to millions of people downstream. Agricultural soils vary widely depending on management practices. Not all agricultural soils are the same. Some farms maintain soils rich in organic matter, teeming with life, and able to produce abundant crops with minimal inputs. Other farms have degraded soils, compacted and depleted, requiring heavy applications of fertilizers and pesticides to produce even modest yields. The difference lies in management. Practices like cover cropping, crop rotation, reduced tillage, and composting build soil health. They add organic matter, support diverse microbial communities, and improve structure. Over time, these soils become more productive and resilient. Conversely, practices like intensive tillage, monoculture, and heavy use of synthetic chemicals degrade soil. Tillage breaks up aggregates, accelerates decomposition of organic matter, and leaves soil vulnerable to erosion. Monocultures deplete specific nutrients and allow pests and diseases to build up. Over-reliance on chemicals can harm beneficial organisms and lead to long-term declines in fertility. The future of agriculture depends on adopting practices that build soil health. Healthy soils produce more food, sequester carbon, filter water, and support biodiversity. They are the foundation of sustainable food systems. The deep soil horizons, soil forms in layers called horizons, each with unique characteristics. If you dig down through soil, you will see that it is not uniform. Instead, it forms distinct layers, each with its own color, texture, and composition. These layers are called horizons. and they tell the story of how the soil formed. At the surface, you might find the O horizon, a layer of organic matter. Below that is the A horizon, or topsoil, where organic matter mixes with minerals. This is usually the darkest layer, rich in life. Beneath the topsoil is the B horizon, or subsoil, where minerals and clays accumulate. Deeper still is the C horizon, weathered parent material that has not yet become true soil. At the bottom is bedrock, the solid rock from which the soil ultimately forms. Each horizon forms through processes like weathering, organic matter accumulation, leaching, and biological activity. These processes take time, often thousands of years. A deep, well-developed soil is a product of a stable landscape and favorable conditions over a long period. Understanding soil horizons helps scientists classify soils, predict their behavior, and manage them sustainably. Each horizon plays a role in the soil's function, and together they create the living system we depend on. The topsoil is where most biological activity occurs. The topsoil, usually the top 6 to 12 inches of soil, is where the magic happens. This is where organic matter is most abundant, where roots are most dense, and where the vast majority of soil organisms live. It is the most fertile and productive layer. Topsoil forms slowly, at a rate of perhaps an inch every 100 to 1,000 years, depending on climate and other factors. Once lost to erosion or degradation, it is not easily replaced. This is why soil conservation is so critical. In healthy topsoil, organic matter may range from 2 to 10% or more. This organic matter improves structure, holds water and nutrients, and feeds the soil food web. The color of topsoil, often dark brown or black, comes from humus. Protecting topsoil means preventing erosion, maintaining plant cover, and adding organic matter regularly. When topsoil is lost, what remains is less fertile subsoil, harder for roots to penetrate, and less able to support life. The subsoil accumulates minerals and clays leached from above. Below the topsoil lies the subsoil, typically lighter in color and denser. This layer accumulates materials that have leached down from above: clays, iron, and aluminum oxides, and sometimes calcium carbonate or salts. The subsoil is less biologically active than the topsoil, but it still plays important roles. It stores water and nutrients that deep-rooted plants can access. In some soils, it forms restrictive layers that limit root growth or water movement, affecting how the soil functions. The texture and composition of subsoil influence drainage. Clay-rich subsoils drain slowly, sometimes creating perched water tables. Sandy subsoils drain quickly, sometimes too quickly, leading to drought stress. Understanding subsoil characteristics is important for agriculture, construction, and land management. Over time, subsoil can become part of the topsoil if organic matter is mixed downward by earthworms, roots, and other soil organisms. Building soil means building not just the surface layer, but the entire profile. Bedrock weathers slowly into parent material for new soil. At the base of the soil profile lies bedrock, the solid rock from which soil ultimately forms. Weathering, both physical and chemical, slowly breaks down this rock. Freeze-thaw cycles crack the rock. Water dissolves minerals. Roots penetrate fissures. Gradually, over centuries and millennia, the rock crumbles and becomes the parent material for soil. The type of bedrock influences the soil that forms. Limestone weathers into calcium-rich soils that are often alkaline. Granite weathers into sandy, acidic soils. Basalt produces fertile, clay-rich soils. Each rock type leaves its signature in the soil above. In some landscapes, soil forms directly atop bedrock. In others, glaciers, rivers, or wind have deposited layers of sediment, and soil forms from these deposits, rather than from underlying rock. Either way, the connection between geology and soil is fundamental. Understanding this connection helps explain why soils vary so much from place to place, and why some regions are naturally more fertile than others. It also reminds us that soil is not static, but constantly forming, even if the process is imperceptibly slow. Some soils are thousands of years old, others just decades. The age of soil varies enormously. In regions where glaciers retreated just 10 or 20,000 years ago, soils are young, with thin layers and limited development. In tropical regions that have been stable for millions of years, soils are ancient, deeply weathered, and often nutrient-poor because so much has been leached away. Young soils are often fertile because they retain minerals from the parent material. Ancient soils, paradoxically, can be less fertile despite their age. In rainforests on ancient soils, most nutrients are held in the living biomass, not in the soil itself. When the forest is cleared, the soil quickly becomes unproductive. Human activity can also create new soils. Abandoned agricultural fields, mine tailings, or construction sites all begin the process of soil formation anew. With time and the colonization of plants and microbes, these bare substrates gradually transform into functioning soils. The age of soil affects its resilience. Ancient soils may be stable, but they are also fragile, easily degraded if disturbed. Young soils are still forming, dynamic and responsive to changes. Both require careful management to sustain their productivity. Soil and climate. Soil temperature affects microbial activity and plant growth. Soil temperature is a critical but often overlooked factor. It influences the rate of microbial activity, seed germination, root growth, and nutrient availability. In warm soils, microbes are active, decomposing organic matter and releasing nutrients. In cold soils, activity slows and nutrient release declines. Most plants have temperature ranges where they grow best. Cool season crops like lettuce and peas thrive in cooler soils. Warm season crops like tomatoes and corn need warm soils to germinate and grow vigorously. Farmers and gardeners time their planting based on soil temperature as much as air temperature. Soil temperature is influenced by air temperature, sunlight, soil moisture, and plant cover. Bare soil heats and cools more rapidly than soil covered by mulch or vegetation. Dark soils absorb more heat than light-colored soils. Understanding these factors helps in managing soil for optimal conditions. In extreme climates, soil temperature can be a limiting factor. In the Arctic, permafrost keeps soil frozen year-round, limiting biological activity to a brief summer thaw. In deserts, high surface temperatures can stress plants and microbes. Moderating temperature extremes through mulching, shade, or irrigation can improve conditions for life. Freeze-thaw cycles break rocks and mix soil layers. In cold climates, water in soil pores, freezes and expands, exerting pressure on surrounding particles. This freeze-thaw action cracks rocks, breaks up clods, and gradually mixes soil layers. Over time, it contributes to soil formation and turnover. Repeated freezing and thawing can also damage soil structure if the soil is too wet. Ice crystals disrupt aggregates, leaving soil loose and vulnerable to erosion when it thaws. This is one reason why avoiding working wet soil is important in cold regions. Freeze-thaw cycles create unique soil features. In permafrost regions, the active layer above the permafrost thaws in summer and refreezes in winter. creating patterns of sorted stones, polygons, and frost heaves. These features shape the landscape and influence where plants can grow. Despite the challenges, life adapts. Soil organisms in cold climates have evolved strategies to survive freezing, from producing antifreeze compounds to entering dormancy. When spring arrives, they resume activity, taking advantage of the brief growing season. Drought stress reduces soil life, but some organisms endure. During prolonged droughts, soil dries out, and biological activity declines. Many organisms enter dormancy, waiting for moisture to return. Earthworms burrow deep and coil in protective chambers. Bacteria form spores. Seeds remain dormant. But even in dry soil, some life persists. Certain bacteria and fungi can tolerate extreme desiccation, surviving with only traces of moisture. When rain finally comes, these survivors rapidly multiply, kickstarting the recovery of the soil ecosystem. Drought also affects soil structure. As soil dries, it shrinks and cracks, sometimes forming deep fissures. These cracks can allow water to penetrate quickly when rain returns, but they also make soil vulnerable to erosion if intense rain arrives before plants have re-established. Building soil organic matter helps soil withstand drought. Organic matter acts as a sponge, holding moisture longer. Soils rich in humus can support plants through dry periods that would devastate depleted soils. This resilience is becoming increasingly important as climate patterns shift. Flooding creates anaerobic conditions that alter soil chemistry. When soil becomes waterlogged, oxygen is displaced by water, and aerobic organisms struggle to survive. Anaerobic bacteria take over, using alternative forms of respiration that produce different byproducts, including methane, hydrogen sulfide, and various organic acids. These changes can harm plants whose roots need oxygen. Many plants cannot tolerate prolonged flooding, but others, like rice and wetland species, have adaptations to survive or even thrive in flooded soils. They transport oxygen from their leaves down to their roots through specialized tissues. Flooding also mobilizes nutrients and contaminants. Under anaerobic conditions, iron and manganese become soluble and can move through the soil. Phosphorus, bound to iron, is released. Nitrates are converted to nitrogen gas and lost to the atmosphere. After flooding recedes, soil gradually returns to aerobic conditions, but the effects can linger. Repeated flooding cycles shape soil development, creating the unique characteristics of wetland and floodplain soils. Climate change is altering soil processes worldwide. As global temperatures rise, soil processes are changing. Warmer temperatures increase microbial activity, accelerating decomposition. In some regions, this is releasing carbon that has been stored in soil for decades or centuries, contributing to further warming. Changing precipitation patterns are also impacting soils. More intense storms lead to increased erosion. Prolonged droughts reduce productivity and can lead to soil degradation. Shifts in plant communities alter the types and amounts of organic matter entering soil. Permafrost, frozen soil that has remained solid for thousands of years, is thawing in the Arctic. As it thaws, organic matter that was frozen is exposed to decomposition, releasing vast amounts of carbon dioxide and methane. This is one of the most concerning feedback loops in the climate system. At the same time, soils offer solutions. By rebuilding organic matter and restoring degraded lands, we can sequester carbon, pulling it out of the atmosphere and storing it underground. Healthy soils are more resilient to climate extremes, better able to support life through droughts, floods, and heat. The future of soil and the future of climate are intertwined. Protecting and restoring soils is one of the most powerful actions we can take to mitigate climate change and adapt to a changing world. Soil as cultural foundation. Ancient civilizations rose and fell with the health of their soils. Throughout history, the fate of civilizations has been tied to the fertility of their soils. The Mesopotamians, the Mayans, the Romans, and countless others thrived when their soils were productive. But when those soils eroded, salinized, or were exhausted, their societies declined. The Fertile Crescent, where agriculture began, was once lush and productive. Today, much of it is degraded, its soils depleted by millennia of intensive use. The collapse of the Mayan civilization is partly attributed to soil erosion and nutrient depletion caused by deforestation and intensive agriculture. These lessons are sobering. Soil degradation is not a modern problem, but a recurring theme in human history. Societies that ignore soil health do so at their peril. Those that invest in maintaining and improving their soils build a foundation for lasting prosperity. Today, we face similar challenges on a global scale. Industrial agriculture has increased food production dramatically, but often at the cost of soil health. We are depleting soils faster than they can form, losing topsoil to erosion, and degrading the biological communities that sustain fertility. Learning from the past is essential for building a sustainable future. Indigenous cultures have long understood the importance of soil stewardship. Many indigenous cultures around the world have practiced sustainable land management for millennia. They understood that soil is not a resource to be extracted, but a living system to be nurtured. Their practices often included crop rotation, intercropping, organic amendments, and periods of fallow to allow soil to recover. In the Amazon, indigenous peoples created terra preta, or black earth, by adding charcoal, bones, and organic matter to naturally poor soils. These enriched soils remain fertile centuries later, far more productive than the surrounding Amazonian soils. Scientists are studying terra preta to understand how ancient knowledge might inform modern soil management. Indigenous practices often emphasize reciprocity, the idea of giving back to the land. Harvest is balanced with care. Use is balanced with restoration. These principles stand in stark contrast to extractive approaches that deplete resources for short-term gain. Reviving and respecting indigenous knowledge is crucial for sustainable agriculture. These time-tested practices offer wisdom that modern science is only beginning to appreciate. Combining indigenous knowledge with contemporary research may provide pathways to healing degraded lands and building resilient food systems. Soil is the foundation of food security worldwide. Nearly all of our food, directly or indirectly, comes from soil. Crops grow in soil. Livestock graze on grass that grows in soil. Even fish farming often depends on feed crops grown in soil. Without fertile, healthy soil, feeding the world's population would be impossible. Yet soil is under threat. An estimated 33% of global soils are degraded to some degree. Erosion, compaction, salinization, contamination, and loss of organic matter are reducing productivity. If current trends continue, some estimates suggest we could lose the majority of productive topsoil within decades. Food security depends on reversing this trend. Investing in soil health is investing in the future. Practices like conservation agriculture, agroforestry, and regenerative farming can rebuild soils, increase productivity, and make food systems more resilient. The challenge is immense, but the solutions exist. We have the knowledge and the tools. What is needed is the will to prioritize soil health, to recognize it as the foundation of civilization, and to act accordingly. Many cultures have myths and stories celebrating the soil. Across cultures, Soil has been revered, celebrated, and woven into myth and story. Creation myths often involve the earth or clay. In many traditions, humans are said to be formed from soil, a recognition of our deep connection to the earth. In Greek mythology, Demeter was the goddess of the harvest and the soil's fertility. Her story, tied to the cycles of the seasons, reflects the agricultural rhythms that governed ancient life. In Hindu tradition, the earth is personified as Bhumi, a nurturing mother who sustains all life. Indigenous peoples of the Americas often speak of the earth as a living being, a relative to be respected and cared for. This worldview fosters a sense of kinship and responsibility that contrasts sharply with seeing land as mere property or commodity. These stories and beliefs remind us that soil is more than a physical substance. It is sacred ground, the source of life, deserving of reverence and care. Reconnecting with these deeper meanings can inspire us to treat soil with the respect it deserves. The future of soil regenerative agriculture aims to restore soil health while producing food. A movement is growing among farmers, scientists, and consumers to transform agriculture from a system that depletes soil to one that regenerates it. Regenerative agriculture focuses on practices that build soil health, minimizing tillage, keeping soil covered with plants or mulch, increasing diversity, integrating livestock, and applying organic amendments. These practices work with nature rather than against it. They support the soil food web, increase organic matter, improve water retention, and sequester carbon. Farms that adopt regenerative practices often see improvements in soil structure, fertility, and resilience within just a few years. Regenerative agriculture is not a return to the past, but a fusion of traditional wisdom and modern science. It uses technology, from soil testing to precision application of inputs, but it is guided by ecological principles. The goal is to create systems that are productive, profitable, and sustainable for generations. Early adopters are demonstrating that regenerative agriculture works. Yields are maintained or even increased. Input costs decline as soil health improves. Farmers report greater satisfaction and connection to the land. If these practices spread widely, they could transform agriculture and contribute significantly to climate mitigation. Composting and organic amendments can restore degraded soils. One of the simplest and most effective ways to improve soil is adding organic matter, compost, made from decomposed plant and animal waste, is rich in nutrients and beneficial microbes. When added to soil, it improves structure, increases water holding capacity, and feeds the soil food web. Manure, cover crop residues, and other organic amendments also build soil. They add not just nutrients, but also the carbon that microbes need to thrive. Over time, these additions transform poor soils into fertile, productive ones. Composting also closes loops, turning waste into a resource. Instead of sending food scraps and yard waste to landfills, where they produce methane, composting transforms them into a valuable soil amendment. It is a simple act, but scaled up, it has profound impacts. Communities and cities are increasingly investing in composting programs. Farmers are making compost on-site or sourcing it locally. This renaissance of composting is part of a broader shift towards circular economies, where waste is minimized and materials are continually reused. No-till and reduced-till farming protect soil structure. Traditional plowing turns soil over, burying weeds and incorporating organic matter. But it also breaks up aggregates, exposes organic matter to rapid decomposition, and leaves soil vulnerable to erosion. Over decades, intensive tillage degrades soil structure and depletes organic matter. No-till farming eliminates plowing entirely. Seeds are planted directly into undisturbed soil, often into the residue of previous crops. This approach leaves soil structure intact, protects organic matter, and reduces erosion. Over time, no-till soils develop better aggregation, higher organic matter, and increased biological activity. Reduced till farming minimizes disturbance without eliminating it entirely. Farmers may use shallow cultivation to manage weeds or incorporate amendments. The key is reducing the frequency and intensity of tillage. Transitioning to no-till or reduced till can be challenging. Weed and pest management may require new strategies. Specialized equipment is often needed, but the benefits accumulate over time, and many farmers who make the shift never go back. Cover cropping is spreading as farmers recognize its benefits. Cover crops are plants grown primarily to protect and improve soil rather than for harvest. They are planted during periods when fields would otherwise be bare, such as after harvest or during winter. Common cover crops include rye, clover, radishes, and vetch. The benefits of cover cropping are numerous. Cover crops prevent erosion by holding soil in place. They add organic matter when incorporated or terminated. They suppress weeds by shading the soil. Legume cover crops fix nitrogen, reducing the need for synthetic fertilizers. Deep-rooted cover crops break up compacted layers and improve water infiltration. Cover crops also provide habitat for beneficial insects and support soil microbial communities. Fields with cover crops often have more diverse and abundant soil life, which translates to healthier plants and higher yields. Adoption of cover cropping has been growing, supported by research, cost-share programs, and farmer-to-farmer learning. As the benefits become clearer, more farmers are integrating cover crops into their rotations, transforming the landscape and the health of the soil. Soil testing helps farmers manage nutrients precisely. Understanding what is happening in soil requires measurement. Soil testing analyzes samples for pH, nutrient levels, organic matter content, and other characteristics. With this information, farmers can apply fertilizers and amendments precisely, avoiding both deficiencies and excess. Precision management reduces costs and environmental impacts. Applying only what is needed means less fertilizer runoff into waterways, lower greenhouse gas emissions, and healthier soils. It also improves profitability by eliminating waste. Advances in technology are making soil testing more accessible. Portable sensors, smartphone apps, and drone-based imaging allow farmers to monitor soil conditions in real time and adjust management accordingly. Precision agriculture is transforming farming from a one-size-fits-all approach to a tailored, responsive practice. Soil testing is not just for large farms. Home gardeners can also benefit from understanding their soil. Simple test kits are available, or samples can be sent to laboratories. With the right information, anyone can improve their soil and grow healthier plants. Urban soils face unique challenges, but also opportunities. In cities, soil is often overlooked or degraded. Construction, compaction from foot and vehicle traffic, contamination from industrial activity, and lack of organic matter inputs all take a toll. Urban soils are often compacted, nutrient-poor, and biologically inactive. Yet urban soils also offer opportunities. Community gardens, urban farms, green infrastructure projects, and tree planting efforts all depend on healthy soil. Improving urban soils can enhance food production, reduce stormwater runoff, sequester carbon, and increase green space for residents. Remediation of contaminated urban soils is an ongoing challenge. Techniques like phytoremediation, using plants to absorb or break down contaminants, and adding clean topsoil or compost can help. In some cases, raised beds filled with imported soil offer a simple solution. As cities grow, the importance of urban soil health will only increase. Integrating soil management into urban planning, protecting green spaces, and investing in soil remediation can create healthier, more livable cities. The quiet miracle beneath us. Every handful of soil contains a universe waiting to be explored. To hold soil in your hand is to hold history, potential, and mystery. Within that handful is a universe of organisms, relationships, and processes that we are only beginning to understand. Each particle has a story, each microbe a role. Science continues to reveal the complexity of soil. New species are discovered regularly. New functions of soil organisms are described. New connections within the soil food web are uncovered. The more we learn, the more we realize how much remains unknown. This hidden universe sustains us. It grows our food, filters our water, regulates our climate, and supports nearly all terrestrial life. Yet it remains largely invisible, taken for granted, undervalued. Changing this begins with awareness, with recognizing that beneath our feet lies a living world, as intricate and essential as any we can see. Exploring soil can be as simple as digging in a garden, or as complex as sequencing the genomes of soil microbes. There is always more to discover, more to learn, more to marvel at. The quiet miracle beneath us invites us to look closer, to appreciate, and to care. Soil reminds us of the cycles that connect all life. The cycles that operate in soil: carbon, nitrogen, water, nutrients, are the same cycles that connect us to every other living thing. The carbon in our bodies once flowed through plants, which took it from the air. Before that, it may have been released by a decomposing leaf in the soil. And before that, it may have been part of an ancient forest or a grazing animal. We are not separate from these cycles. We are part of them, woven into the fabric of life that soil sustains. Every breath we take, every meal we eat, every cell in our bodies, all of it traces back, eventually, to the soil. Understanding this connection can change how we see the world. It fosters humility, gratitude, and responsibility. We depend on soil, and soil depends on our stewardship. Caring for soil is caring for ourselves, for our children, and for the countless generations to come. The story of soil is the story of life itself. From the first microbes that colonized barren rock billions of years ago to the complex ecosystems of today, soil has been central to the evolution and persistence of life on Earth. It has shaped landscapes, supported forests, fed civilizations, and endured through ice ages and mass extinctions. In a very real sense, soil is life. It is alive with organisms, animated by their activity, sustained by their relationships. To damage soil is to damage life. To restore soil is to restore life. The fate of soil and the fate of the biosphere are inseparable. As we move into an uncertain future with a changing climate and a growing population, the importance of soil has never been greater. We must learn to see soil not as dirt, but as a living system, not as a resource to exploit, but as a foundation to nurture. The quiet work of earthworms, bacteria, fungi, and countless other organisms continues, as it has for eons. They ask nothing of us, except that we respect the ground beneath our feet, that we tread lightly, and that we remember all life comes from the soil, and to the soil all life returns. A gentle closing. And so, dear listener, our journey through the hidden world beneath our feet comes to a bore close. From the vast networks of fungi connecting forests to the single bacterial cell cycling nutrients, from the tunnels carved by earthworms to the ancient layers of peat holding carbon from ages past. We have wandered together through soil's quiet majesty. We have seen that soil is not mere dirt, but a living community, as complex as any rainforest or coral reef. We have learned that everything we are, everything we eat, and the very air we breathe depends on the thin layer of earth beneath us. We have glimpsed the partnerships, the cycles, the patience, and the resilience that define life in soil. The soil reminds us that life is connection. Every organism, from the smallest bacterium to the tallest tree, plays a role. Every action ripples through the web of life. What we do to the soil, we do to ourselves. What we do for the soil, we do for all living things. As you lie here, letting your breath fall into a slow, easy rhythm, imagine yourself resting on the earth. Feel its solidity beneath you, supporting you, holding you. Know that below the surface, countless lives are at work, cycling nutrients, building structure, sustaining the web of life that includes you. Picture the earthworms tunneling through darkness, patient and persistent. See the fungal threads weaving their silent networks, connecting tree to tree, plant to plant. Imagine the bacteria, billions upon billions, breathing, transforming, creating. Visualize the organic matter slowly becoming humus, dark and rich, storing carbon, holding water, feeding life. All of this happens in darkness, in silence, unseen by human eyes. Yet it is as vital as sunlight, as necessary as rain. The soil beneath us is not empty space, but a universe teeming with purpose, with connection, with life renewing itself endlessly. As plants send their roots downward, seeking nutrients and water, they also give back, releasing sugars, forming partnerships, building community. As leaves fall and return to Earth, become food for countless organisms, their atoms and molecules cycling once more. Nothing is lost. Everything transforms. The cycles continue, patient and eternal. In this quiet understanding, there is peace. The soil does not hurry. It does not worry. It simply is, working steadily, transforming death into life, receiving what falls and offering what grows. Season after season, year after year, millennium after millennium, the soil endures and renews. You can rest in that knowledge. You can let go of the day's tensions, the mind's chatter, the body's restlessness. Like a seed planted in warm, dark earth, you can settle into stillness, trusting the ground beneath you, knowing you are held, knowing you are part of something vast and ancient and ongoing. The soil asks nothing of you now except to rest, to breathe, to allow yourself to be supported. Feel the gentle pull of gravity connecting you to the earth. Feel your body relaxing, releasing, becoming heavy and soft. With each breath, you sink a little deeper into comfort, into quiet, into peace. Imagine the roots of all the plants around you, spreading through the soil, intertwining, creating a living net that holds the earth together. Imagine you are part of that network, connected to every growing thing, every living creature, every particle of soil. You belong here. You are held here. You are home. The earthworms continue their ancient work, turning soil, enriching it, creating pathways for air and water. The fungi extend their threads, patient explorers in the dark. The bacteria multiply and transform, breathing life into minerals and organic matter. And you, resting above them, are part of this community, this family of life. In soil, time moves differently. A tree may live for centuries, its roots growing slowly deeper, its partnership with fungi enduring through generations. Humus may persist for decades, centuries even, slowly releasing its stored nutrients. The soil holds memory, patience, and promise all at once. Past, present, and future intertwine in the dark earth. You need not rush, you need not do. You can simply be, like the soil itself, present and patient. Let your thoughts slow and scatter like leaves drifting down to the forest floor. Let your worries dissolve like rainwater soaking into thirsty ground. Let your mind become as quiet as the space between soil particles, where water and air rest in perfect balance. The night sky above and the soil below are both filled with mysteries, with lives we cannot see but that shape our world. Above, stars burn across vast distances. Below, microbes work in intimate darkness. Both are essential. Both are beautiful. Both remind us that we are part of something larger than ourselves. As you drift now, feel yourself becoming part of the Earth's quiet rhythm. Your heartbeat slows, matching the patient pulse of soil respiration. Your breathing deepens, drawing in life, releasing it gently back. You are not separate from Earth, but of it, made from its elements, sustained by its generosity, held by its stability. The soil does not judge or demand, it simply receives and transforms. It accepts what comes: rain or sun, leaves or roots, seasons of growth and seasons of rest, and works with it all, finding balance, creating life. You can rest in that same acceptance, letting yourself be exactly as you are, knowing it is enough. Somewhere beneath you, an earthworm moves through its tunnel, its body gently massaging the soil, leaving behind castings richer than what it consumed. Somewhere, a fungal thread touches a root, and a partnership begins that may last a lifetime. Somewhere, a bacterial spore awakens after years of dormancy, sensing moisture, beginning again to grow and transform. These small acts, repeated billions of times, create the world. They build soil, support forests, feed humanity. They remind us that even the smallest life has meaning, that every action matters, that patience and persistence can accomplish miracles. Let yourself be small now, like a microbe in the vast soil universe. Let yourself be part of the whole, not needing to be noticed or understood, simply existing, simply being. In that smallness, there is freedom. In that belonging, there is peace. The soil will still be here, tomorrow, doing its quiet work. The earthworms will tunnel, the fungi will weave, the bacteria will transform, the cycles will continue, patient and sure. You can trust in that continuity. You can rest in that reliability. The earth holds you now, as it has held countless lives before, as it will hold countless lives to come. Feel yourself sinking deeper into that support, your body growing heavier, warmer, more relaxed. The boundaries between you and the earth soften. You are held, cradled, embraced by the ground beneath you. You are safe. You are home. You can let go completely. As darkness deepens and stillness settles, imagine yourself as a seed planted in rich soil. Around you, the soil community works, preparing the ground, creating the conditions for growth. But for now, you need only rest, gathering strength, waiting for the right moment. There is no rush. Time stretches long and patient in the earth. The soil knows how to wait. It knows how to transform. It knows how to nurture life from the smallest beginning. Trust in that wisdom. Trust in that patience. Let yourself be held in the darkness, in the warmth, in the quiet certainty that when the time comes, you will grow, you will emerge, you will find your place in the sun. But not now. Now is for resting, for releasing, for allowing the earth to do what it does best: support, sustain, and renew. Let your last thoughts drift away like spores on a gentle breeze, landing softly in the soil, waiting, resting, becoming part of the endless cycle. The soil breathes slowly beneath you. You breathe slowly above it. Two rhythms, synchronizing, becoming one, in and out, give and receive, death, life, rest and renewal. All of it cycling, all of it connected, all of it held in the great embrace of the living earth. Close your eyes now, if they're not already closed. Let the darkness be complete, as dark as the soil beneath you, as dark as the space where earthworms tunnel and roots reach. In that darkness, there is no fear, only potential, only possibility, only the deep rest from which all life emerges. Feel the weight of your body pressing gently into the earth. Feel the earth pressing gently back, supporting every part of you. You are held perfectly, completely, without effort. You can let go of holding yourself up, holding yourself together. The earth does that for you now. Somewhere deep in the soil, carbon that was once part of an ancient tree is being released, transformed, becoming available for new growth. Somewhere, nitrogen is being fixed from the air, pulled down into the earth, ready to nourish the next generation of plants. Somewhere, water is being filtered and purified, emerging clean and fresh. All of this happens without your effort, without your thought. The soil knows what to do. Life knows how to continue. You can trust in that. Rest in that. Allow yourself to be carried by that same patient process. You do not need to make anything happen. You need only to rest, to release, to allow. The fungi send their messages through their networks, chemical whispers from tree to tree, warnings and gifts traveling through the dark. The bacteria form their spores, preparing for whatever comes, patient and resilient. The earthworms leave their castings, enriching the soil for future growth. And you, resting above them all, a part of this community, this symphony of life. Let the last tensions dissolve from your muscles, from your mind, from your spirit. Let yourself become as soft and receptive as healthy soil, ready to absorb peace, to filter out worry, to hold on to what nourishes and release what does not serve. The soil shows you how. It has been doing this work for millions of years. It knows the way. As you drift deeper into sleep, into dreams, into the quiet darkness of true rest, know that the soil continues its work, unseen, unheard, unnoticed by most. It sustains everything. It is the foundation, the source, the constant beneath all change. And it holds you now as you drift, as you rest, as you surrender to sleep. The earthworms tunnel through the night. The fungi weave their endless threads. The bacteria transform and multiply. The soil breathes, lives, and sustains. And you, dear listener, can simply rest, knowing you are part of this miracle, this quiet wonder, this hidden world that holds all life. Drift now into darkness, into depth, into the peaceful earth where all is transformation, all is renewal, all is rest. Let the soil's ancient patience become yours. Let its quiet confidence fill you. Let its endless capacity to receive, transform, and give back teach you how to rest completely. The cycles continue. The soil endures. Life renews itself, again and again, patiently, perfectly, eternally. And you are part of that. You belong to that. You can rest in that knowledge, sink into that truth, and allow sleep to take you gently home. Good night, dear listener. Rest well in the embrace of the living earth. Let the soil hold you. the darkness cradle you, and the quiet confidence of billions of years of life continuing guide you into deep, peaceful sleep. If you happen to still be awake, you can go ahead and watch the next video when you are ready. But if your eyes are growing heavy, let the quiet of the earth hold you and carry you softly into rest. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift into sleep, into stillness, into the vast and timeless silence where soil and life and dreams all intertwine. Good night.